So first up today, I'm really excited to hear from Bette from Acala. Acala is a substrate-based EVM-compatible parachain that aggregates a currently fragmented liquidity ecosystem and serves as a launching pad and more, hopefully providing a ubiquitous DeFi hub for dApps to access a multi-chain universe in the Polkadot ecosystem and beyond. In this talk, Bette will demonstrate what's possible, so the things that we know about based on DeFi to date, and then sort of the categorically different and new and interesting unknowns that we are hoping to experience in this sort of exciting future that Polkadot is bringing into the fore with the launch of parachains. I would also say pay attention for a surprise guest. So Bette, take it away.
Cool. Thanks, Peter, for the introduction. Hi, everyone. This is Bette, co-founder of Acala, Karura, and Lemina. So super happy to be here today. And I will share some very exciting new developments on composing some crushing applications using DeFi Legos on Acala, Polkadot, and also beyond. And as Peter mentioned, we've also invited a very special guest speaker to shed some light on how we can actually accelerate what we are doing here in crypto, in DeFi, to the real world adoption. And at the end, I'll also showcase a short demo. So it's a fully packed presentation. Hope you all enjoy it. And before we actually dive into building the decentralized applications, let's look briefly at how we actually got here today, and to actually set some context. It's also useful to actually reduce very complex things into fundamentals and first principles. Let's see how we go. So we start with Bitcoin. Essentially, Bitcoin is a single ledger, and it's also a very specific application. It does what it does really well, but with limited composability by design. So if we use an analogy, we can say this is the calculator era of blockchain. And next up, as you can expect, we have Ethereum. But essentially, Ethereum is just a ledger plus an EVM, an Ethereum virtual machine. So basically, it's a computer which allows developers to program applications on top of a ledger. And Ethereum is one giant computer, is a mainframe computer. Composability happens within a single blockchain. And I think we can call this the mainframe era of blockchain. And what happens after mainframe in the real world? Well, we subsequently have servers and cloud computing. And after the cloud era, there's an explosive development of Web 2 applications like Google, Uber, Facebook that we're all very familiar with today. So I think blockchain is entering into the cloud era now. And Polkadot is that internet protocol for blockchains. It is the TCP IP of the decentralized web. And each connected blockchains like Acala offers differentiated services that can be composed together to deliver the end user experience. So for example, it is possible by one click of a button on a familiar Web 2 app, you can turn your Bitcoin to generate dot staking yield without actually selling your Bitcoin and potentially with privacy preserved. As a user, that experience can be very seamless. Behind the scene, though, that could have crossed 3 to 4 different blockchains, from Bitcoin to Polkadot to Acala, then to a privacy chain and back. And that could also have consumed multiple services like asset bridges, stablecoin lending, liquid staking, and dark pool and privacy services. And that future is actually happening now. I think many of the folks speaking at this conference are at the forefront, building and helping to construct the infrastructure to make this possible. And we also believe the future will be multi-chain. And we also believe specialization will trump generalization. So this is where specialized blockchains will serve a particular domain really well. It is where the real UX innovation would come from. And I will use Acala later as an example to explain what I mean by that. And also, these specialized blockchains will be composable at all levels. So next up, let's look at what it looks like under the hood. So at a very fundamental level, Polkadot provides the ledger and trust as a service. Well, in other words, Polkadot provides consensus as a service. It also provides cross-chain communication as a service. And on a layer up, on top of that, as a parachain, Acala provides decentralized finance as a service. Let me elaborate. So on launch, Acala will be an all-in-one DeFi blockchain network, offering a suite of cross-chain financial applications that lets users to trade, issue service loans, lend and borrow, become liquidity providers, access staking derivatives, and also earn various yields on their digital assets. And Acala's network is also optimized for DeFi. So for example, fees are payable in any supported tokens. When our collaborator Ampleforce goes cross-chain and lands on Acala, Ample users can use Ample token as a first-class fee token. And Acala is also very well equipped with advanced features like automatic scheduler and Oracle gateway to serve the growing demand for various real-world applications. And above all, Acala is an open platform. So you can now build and deploy Solidity smart contracts, and also later ink Wasm smart contracts to leverage all the DeFi Legos built on Acala, as well as the aggregated cross-chain liquidity to power more financial instruments. And all of Acala's services are composable with other blockchains networks at different levels. So we can connect to Bitcoin and Ethereum via bridges. And we are also composable with other parachains, such as privacy chains, prediction markets, identity, NFTs, and you name it. And I think that's the beauty of the Polkadot design and also its ecosystem. We are working with many parachain teams, such as Fala, Interlay, Centrifuge, Qt, Plasm, Moonbeam, Nodo, Darwinian, Snowfork, Big Country, Hydrodex, and many, many more, and too many to name them all. So I really would like to take the opportunity to appreciate all of these builders are very actively working together with us to make this a reality. And there you have it. That's Acala as the decentralized bank serving many users. But I think more importantly, Acala going forward will serve as the backbone financial infrastructure to power more open finance markets. Now, those are the knowns. We already know that we've been building on it for 2 years now, but I think the future is made up of many unknowns, and that's where the excitement is, and that's also where the innovation, the creativity, and collaboration come into play. And that's where ultimately, what I hope, without the need to explain to my parents what I actually do for a living, they can enjoy the fruits of our innovation here that will actually benefit their daily life. And there I would like to introduce you this concept of HyFi, a hybrid of DeFi and CeFi. We believe the HyFi infrastructure will accelerate this movement for real-world adoption. And with that, I'm very excited to announce a partnership between Acala and Current, a leading US fintech company serving millions of people who are working to create a better future for themselves. And this partnership, also the first of its kind, will establish a new category of hybrid finance, HyFi, that combines both traditional and decentralized finance applications for real-world adoption. So that's the special guest today that would like to hand over to Trevor Marshall, the CTO of Current, to share a few words. All yours, Trevor.
Thank you, Betty. Thank you for inviting me. My name is Trevor Marshall. I'm the CTO of Current, calling in from our HQ in New York City. Current is one of the fastest growing fintechs in the US with 3 million members. Our platform connects our members with financial services through a seamless interface, redefining how banking works. If you're excited about what we're building and want to work on it yourself, we're hiring. I'd love to hear from you. We started Current because we saw the way that money was being re-networked through new technologies. We built our own core banking platform to enable compatibility with different financial backends, bridging together both traditional fiat and distributed ledger rails. This first principle of compatibility is what initially drew me into the Polkadot system. And when I was introduced to Bette and the Acala team, I knew we found the right partners to start building this HyFi bridge from consumers to value. By establishing the first layer of decentralized infrastructure for Current in partnership with the Acala team, we are creating a path for seamless consumer experiences that deliver the value without the heavy burden of understanding the technology of decentralized technology, or as Bette said, describing it to our parents. So how does this translate into what we're announcing today? First, Current has deployed validators to the Polkadot network that are now in the active set and will deploy Acala collators later this year for the Acala parachain launch on mainnet. Second, we are co-developing a yield engine with Acala that will live on Acala. And third, we're establishing the on and off ramps to that engine to connect with Current Core, our core banking platform. These three infrastructural components will power experiences for our members that we'll be announcing later this year. For more of what that looks like in action, I'll hand it back to Bette. Thank you again for having me, and she'll go into some more details and show a demo as well.
Thanks, Trevor. So here you're looking at Acala's DeFi infrastructure, and this will actually power a variety of value creation instruments and also yield opportunities. And the integration is actually with Current's built into Current's core banking platform that is designed to bridge closed-loop fiat systems to open platforms like Acala. The U-Factory instruments can leverage a variety of yield opportunities via Acala's core services, such as staking, lend and borrow, as well as incentivized liquidity provisioning. With streamlined fiat and DeFi bridges, everyday users can access these value creation opportunities via their familiar interfaces, such as a debit card or the FinTech app or other interfaces. And also, for many of the DOT holders here, the yield instruments will enable use cases like allowing us to spend our future DOT staking reward in dollars without selling our DOT, without selling our DOT rewards, potentially free lunch opportunity right there. And there you have it, right? So this is the composable DeFi Legos powered by Polkadot and Acala and pluggable to HyFi platforms. Now, I would like to give you a sneak peek into behind the scene, the backend. And here's a proof of concept demo that I would like to show. And do bear with me, this is a proof of concept, so it's very cool UX and no promises as usual. So let's go into it. Right. Right, so here is an asset manager with two different yield products and vaults. And one is, and one is for a dollar-denominated yield, and then the other one is for DOT to USD vault. The dollar-denominated yield basically deposits and returns in dollars, so very friendly to everyday user. So let's go in and have a look. So what we're seeing here is the test account here has $112,000 in the vault, currently making $11,000 in profit with real-time yield of 15%. And now we're just adding in 10K more into the vault. It has some indicative compounding rate on the right-hand side. It's all built on Solidity smart contracts and deployed on Acala EVM. So basically, that was you approving the transaction and sending it on chain. And looking inside the strategy, which is more interesting, you can see the vault splits the deposit into LDOT, liquid DOT, a tokenized stake DOT, which is yield bearing. And then the rest of them, 80% is actually in the liquidity pool of Acala stacks in the LDOT and USD pair. So probably a higher earning pair because LDOT bears staking yield while earning DEX fees and of course, liquidity mining rewards at the same time. And now this is what happens on chain. You can see there's EVM transactions being executed, EVM logging, and also, this is the highlight, the auto scheduler being dispatched, which automatically rebalances our portfolio and also maximizes our return on chain. On Ethereum and other EVM platforms, this can only be done by a centralized third-party off-chain. So, with the tech stack here, we can do it on-chain, cheaper, and also it's more efficient, safer, and more secure this way. Right. Right. So that's my presentation. So with Polkadot as the decentralized web and also Acala as the decentralized finance engine, together we will power a new global economy and empower individuals to create a freer and better financial future. And our collaboration with partners like Current is the beginning of a HyFi future to make this a reality for everyone on the planet. And that concludes my presentation. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Betty. Trevor, welcome back. We have a couple questions here from the audience. So first off, I think something maybe for you, Trevor. So like, what do current users get via Acala? And I know that there's more announcements to come. So without giving too much away, you have over 3 million users in the US now. What are they gonna have exposure to? And then like, what's like the risk management for them compared to like the traditional banking services they're used to getting through the app?
Yeah, absolutely. We'll be releasing the actual way that this translates into the consumer experience later this year. But the fundamental idea is we're trying to create opportunities for value creation that don't exist in traditional systems. There is a unique opportunity here to bridge people into these systems that have been extremely difficult to access, even as a technical person. It's very difficult to access a lot of the types of value creation opportunities that exist in DeFi today. So our role, Current's role, is to be the interface layer to actually bridge customers into that. And so this first really step is putting that infrastructure in place so that we can build on top of it and create those experiences in the coming months.
Yeah, you mentioned, I think earlier, or I think in the announcement that went out yesterday, that you've been exploring bringing sort of Web3, DeFi, crypto technologies into your platform for a while. You tried to experiment with, I believe, Ripple, and then experimented a bit with Ethereum. Can you tell maybe a little bit about your experience there, why it didn't work, and then what about Polkadot and Acala really intrigued you and said like, this is the time that this is actually going to click?
Yeah, absolutely. Early on, because we started Current building on top of Ripple directly, and there wasn't a lot of consumer value in bridging people into the networks in 2015. In 2018, we got very close to releasing an Ethereum-based product, but ultimately, the number of transactions that happen on our platform would overwhelm any sort of meaningful. If you wanted to have one-to-one relationships of user actions into something that generates, in the case of what we're building on Ethereum, a data reward concept, it just kind of breaks down because you're trying to get value to customers that are relatively small, like microtransactions, but then you're paying gas costs that far exceed the actual outcome to customers. So it didn't make a ton of sense. But Polkadot to me is the first example of how you should actually scale this type of technology. The focus on composability, interoperability, it makes sense, and also the way that the validation is done allows for the type of scale that we would like to be able to apply through this, so that we can actually truly integrate on a transaction level into these systems.
Yeah, that's great. So Trevor, one more question for you before I have some questions for Betty. Sort of the reverse of what I'm used to hearing. Everyone's like, how do I get access to this product in the US? Can't get this in the US, can't get that. Everyone in the chat's asking, how do I get Current if I'm outside of the US? Is that possible? Is that in the foreseeable future for people who want to access this product? I think people are pretty excited about it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're focused on building a great business here in the US. There's a lot of things that we pay attention to in order to bring products like this. It's a very distinct sort of compliance landscape that we have to follow by. But one of the big benefits of building with Acala is a lot of these yield engines will be open. So we're not planning on locking down access to these features just to current customers. The goal would be, Current can provide a really seamless way to integrate, but it wouldn't just necessarily be completely locked. So that's a big part of our focus of moving into more open systems, is to expand access even outside of our own consumer base, so that the value that we can create can expand to everyone.
Awesome. Yeah, so some people are asking, does this mean I'll be able to swipe a card to a stablecoin balance? And the short answer is yes. A little bit more, even more exciting and interesting of a product than that. But as Trevor said, more to come in the coming weeks and months. Bette, over to you. A question here, sort of asking about the Ethereum ecosystem, saying Ethereum already has a thriving DeFi ecosystem. What does the Acala and a Polkadot offer that we can't already do on Ethereum?
Sure, that's a great question. We asked that question to ourselves when we first started building on substrate test stack as well. What can we do differently? I think there are many things that we can do significantly differently. I'm sure, like on a product level, you are seeing on the surface level, there's still stablecoin, there's still exchanges, there's still all of those elements that you're building out. But there's the whole dot staking economy that's untapped, right? Based on this dot staking economy, there's a lot of new opportunity that are underexplored. So I alluded to in my presentation where many of the staking derivatives that can actually unlock many of the opportunities. Like you basically your assets can be in two different places at the same time. You can stake, provide security, but also at the same time, you can use it for DeFi, and potentially, you can spend the future staking rewards for everyday use, like grocery or something like that. So that's one aspect of more, product related. But at a more fundamental platform related questions, and then that's the most exciting part, because on Polkadot, unlike in the EVM, right, you are kind of constrained by what the virtual machine allows you to do or not allow you to do. So two things. One, inside the EVM, it allows you to have a fee token that's currently like ETH, right? I think for all of the DeFi users, it's probably normal. You just pay ETH as a gas fee. But if I tell my mom today, if you pay for your eggs in New Zealand dollars, but you have to have the Chinese yuan or have the US dollars as the gas fee, and she will just break down, right? That's just like very unusual user experience. And that's the UX innovation that I'm talking about, because we can actually customize at a level lower than the EVM, basically at the chain level, so that we can improve a lot of this UX, or actually make it right, the UX a lot. So for example, on Acala, you can pay your fees in stablecoin, or if you are Bitcoin maximalist, you can pay fees in Bitcoin without holding any other tokens. But that's only one very small thing that we did to demonstrate the point that you can customize everything. And another thing is you can have this more advanced features like on-chain scheduler. So I showed a little bit, and in my demo is like, normally, if you deploy that on Ethereum or a normal EVM compatible platform, you will have to set up an additional server to constantly monitor the risk levels as well as the collateral levels, to figure out whether you are in risk of liquidation. If so, the server actually sent a transaction onto the blockchain to liquidate the position or do some actions on the blockchain. So those are two separate systems, as you can see. And then you still rely on centralized parties to perform that reliably. And that was one of the reasons for Black Thursday that happened last year, on Ethereum. And we certainly, look up to a lot of the projects on Ethereum for all the lessons learned, all the risk exposures there, and then so we can improve all the stuff that we're doing here, because we now have a fully customizable blockchain that we can basically build real world applications that suitable for a lot of those more complex, more scale up applications. So
you answered like 3 of the other questions I was about to ask. That was a great combined answer. So I think the last one I'll wrap up on, someone noted, and I think is an interesting piece, is you mentioned you're sort of restricted potentially in Ethereum by the Ethereum virtual machine, but then someone noticed in that chart that you both have like EVM and Inc. WASM smart contracts. Can you briefly just describe sort of how you can have 2 smart contracting mechanisms within the chain, and then like the benefits you might see by using a WebAssembly system versus the EVM?
Yeah, so I think that's the beauty of substrate. I think if, above all, that's probably one of the most important and significant invention of the blockchain history, because with the substrate framework, EVM is just one module, and also the Wasm Inc. smart contract is also a module. If I use an analogy, a module is a little bit like apps in the App Store. And then the substrate framework is a bit like your iPhone. And then you can basically download the EVM with one click of a button, and then now you are EVM compatible. That's how cool substrate is. And that also means once we get to a certain point, we're very close to that, you will see innovation happen extremely fast on all the substrate based chains. Because if there's any improvements on the EVM palettes, if we add a new feature there, then immediately everyone who installed that EVM palette is going to immediately get that improvement. And if we actually have some new smart contract platform, for example, the Inc. WebAssembly smart contract platform is relatively new. It has a lot of improvements on performance, and handling of fees, state renting, and things like that. It's basically one app. So everyone, if downloads that, then you are enabled with that functionality. And imagine, Polkadot's going to have hundreds of substrate-based chains, so as Kusama, and that, there you have like 200 plus chains that will be enabled with all of this new technology very quickly. And in general as well, not only EVM as modules, but many of the other functionality can be modularized and then deliver that innovation super fast. I think in the days, weeks, or years to come. So there you go, Peter.
Awesome. Thank you, Bette. Thank you, Trevor. Really looking forward to seeing the product roll out over the course of the next year.